Yo, did you know that AI is replacing graphic designers now?
Oh, hell no. You're not actually buying into all that, are you? There's no way ChatGPT can do what I do.
I don't know, man. Might be time to hang up the Photoshop and find a real job.
Alright, you know what? That's it. I'm gonna prove you and everyone else wrong. It's time for...
So let's put ChatGPT to the test. So I'm going to use this picture of mine and try and generate a concept art, or just an art in general. So we're gonna create image and we will write a little prompt for that. And here's the prompt I came up with: create a realistic concept art using this picture, post-apocalyptic city, and all the other bullshit. So let's hit send and see what ChatGPT can generate us with this picture. All right, I'm actually so curious because I have used ChatGPT before. I generated some pictures. I mean, they look cool, but I wouldn't say I could use anything like... All right, and we have a picture. Okay, already I can tell the face is not it. It changed the pose completely though, because if you look here, I have my right hand up. For some reason, now it's down. I'm not sure why, but okay. The background is pretty cool though, not gonna lie. Like, the car is destroyed, the vents. Buildings are kind of boring, to be honest. So it's like one building throughout the whole thing. But let's give it one more try. Let me give it a little more details, maybe like some corrections. And all right, here's a little prompt trying to, I don't know, move it in the right direction maybe. So let's click send and see what it can get us. Yes, yes, yes. What do you mean you get started now? Start. I wrote end image, whatever. I'm not sure what to expect, but we'll see. All right, image created and okay. All right. What the hell is that? Come on, bruh. Where's the pose? Oh, Jesus.
As you can see, ChatGPT couldn't even keep my face right. And this highlights one of the biggest problems with generating pictures with AI for commissions or some kind of professional work. You lose control over the smallest details. Sure, AI can save you some time and make something that looks cool, but you trade that time and looks cool for quality. And that's not what we really want, do we? So yeah, clients can now take a few photos, send them to ChatGPT and get some cool concepts. Sure, you know who else can do that? Designers. And that's the thing, with AI getting more powerful, designers are getting more powerful too. And look at it this way, we now have tools that makes us stronger, faster, and more productive. And when used right, AI doesn't replace us, it just makes us stronger in a way. And don't forget who's holding the pen. Okay, that was weird.
Anyways, here's the picture of a city that I generated. Yeah, I used AI for the background because I couldn't really find a right image for it. So I was like, okay, let me just generate it, and you know, what are you gonna do? First of all, let's remove the sky using the select sky tool. Then we'll fix small mistakes in the selection with lasso tool. And then refine the mask using mask properties. And then I'll place this beautiful gray cloudy sky image and distort it so it fits the perspective. Now I'll adjust the vibrance with a vibrance adjustment layer. As you can see, the skyscrapers are a little too bluish compared to our sky, so with the same adjustment layer, I'll tone them a bit more grayish to match the sky, because obviously, windows should reflect what's actually up there. And it's not blue. After that, I'll use color balance to bring out some color to set a certain vibe for the piece. Then I wanted to add a nice fog in the background because, as you can see, way down there, it's not very detailed, obviously because it was AI generated. So the city image isn't perfect, so let's try and fix that. So what I'm gonna do is select the section of the city and create a solid color fill layer with the shade I want. And then I'll decrease the fill, and as you can see, it adds so much dimension to the whole thing. I love it. Let's do that again for the part that's a bit closer to us, and then once again for even closer buildings. Now we have 4 color fill layers, and already they add so much fog and depth to my image, so now we can work with that. Let's move to the tree. I won't go too much into detail here. You definitely heard of photo bashing. If you haven't, it's basically taking a bunch of pictures and creating something new out of them. For example, I wanted to make this big old tree, and obviously there isn't one like that in real life and no pictures of it online. So we have to make it ourselves, which is fine by me. My first idea was to have the tree grow into the building on the right, but then I thought, I don't want to overcomplicate it. So I just pointed it up into the sky, and honestly, I think that looks better. I can't really say much about photo bashing or give many tips because I just do it by eye. If I don't like a picture, I just don't add it. And if I like it, I do. Simple as that. So yeah, added some roots on the ground of the tree, then let's make this road nice and mossy using a moss texture. I also want to use this abandoned road picture with some leaves, puddle and whatnot. I want as much texture on the road as possible to really show that it's been years since the apocalypse or whatever. Now I want the whole city to be overgrown with greenery and foliage, so I took this grass texture and started drawing some grass on the road to show that it's overgrown. In some parts I drew it more densely than others just to make it feel more natural. Back to the tree, I wanted to color match all the images so they look more cohesive. I did that with color balance, applying it to every image I used on the tree. Then I also darkened the tree a bit and used some fog on the top to blend it into the scene a little more. Now for the roots, I did the same thing with the texture on the ground and the road. I darkened everything because, you know, the sun isn't shining that bright with the cloudy sky. So after that, I drew in some fog, which added even more dimension to the image. Then I thought, well, let's destroy the buildings now. They still look a little too perfect for an apocalypse. So let's take this broken window image, place it in, and blend using color balance and some exposure. And then I'll take another image of a broken building and do the same, blending it into the building using exposure adjustment layer and color balance again. Let's also draw some shadows on the building, casted by tree. Now let's break down some of the skyscrapers in the background using that image. I'll position it and blend it in using our lovely technique. And just like that, it looks like the skyscraper is destroyed. Now the building on the left looks way too perfect, so we're going to add this mossy texture to draw some of it on top. Using blend if, I'll reveal some of the original shadows from the building image, and as you can see, the texture lies very nicely. Let's desaturate it and darken it just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let's do the same thing for the building on the right, adding moss texture, rocky texture to really show the wear on the structure. I also did this for the house in the back. Next, let's add radioactive sign. Honestly, I have no idea why I added it. It doesn't even make that much sense. Now let's add some vines hanging down from the tree and also place an abandoned school bus way down the road in the background. As you can tell, I'm hopping around from task to task. That's just my usual flow. If you've seen my channel or any of my other videos, you probably already know this. I don't know. Maybe I have ADHD or something. I'm not sure. Anyways, we have this vine mossy texture, so let's add that to the sign. Let's also hang some vines from the building on the left. We'll come back to that building and those vines in a bit. Now I want to add some more foliage on the ground, more grass and overgrowth, so I'm just going to draw some grass. If you're wondering which brushes I'm using, I just found them online. Just type grass brushes into Google and you'll find tons of them. Anyways, moving on, let's blend the vines on the left and add abandoned bicycle. It won't be visible in the final piece, but honestly, half of the stuff I add, you might not even see it in the final piece. But you know what you will see? My brand new Discord server. That's right, guys and gals, I made a Discord server. It's a place for creatives, creators, gamers, and anyone who wants to chat and chill. And yep, voice chats too, perfect for making friends just like these two.
Hello?
What's up?
Do you want to play Fortnite?
Yeah, sure.
Kill him, kill him, kill him!
Yeah! And here's the cool part. You can actually offer your skills and land your first clients here. Just check the guidelines before posting. And if you're hiring, we've got job board for that too. Plus, there are monthly challenges, reaction roles, and more cool stuff. Welcome to Ilya's Art Sanctuary. Link is in the description. And now, let's add this abandoned and rusty car to the scene. We'll match the colors with color balance and add some shadows using exposure, the usual stuff. At first, I wanted to place the car as if it were sitting in the grass, but then I realized the grass I drew wasn't tall enough for that, so I thought, okay, let's not do that. Instead, I drew some highlights on top of the car, because even with cloudy sky, there is still light coming from above. Now let's add a broken fence. I think it's a cool detail, maybe someone tried to block the road or something, and it adds a nice touch. Next, I'm adding another abandoned car in the building near the school bus. Let's blend that in using the same techniques. Then I'll place the vine image on top of our front car and add some more vines to the tree and the building on the left. Now, using this wooden plank texture, I want to block off some of the entrances and windows just for a fun little detail. Let's also add a vignette effect using exposure adjustment layer because I want overall scene to be a bit darker. I'll also add highlights on the top of the tree because, again, even with cloudy sky, the light still comes from above. Now let's go with more vines and overgrowth on our buildings for extra texture. I'll also do this for the houses way down the road and our beautifully destroyed skyscraper. As you can see, it adds tons of texture and it looks really nice. Lastly, I add more moss to the tree for extra detail and a few more vines on the building on the left. Now I'm going to position these light rays because I want the light coming from that direction, since on the image of myself, the light is coming from the right, so I thought it would be a good idea to match it here as well. As you can see, it almost instantly helps me blend into the background. Now let's add our props, the gun on the right arm and the torch in my left arm. Let's also add a flame to the torch, however the flame is a bit too large for my likings and I want to make it smaller. If you saw my magic tutorial video, I showed you how to draw magic effects, and you can apply the same technique for editing real images of fire. Let me explain what I mean. First, just like we did with the magic effect, create a gradient map and pick the colors that resemble fire. Then place a solid black layer underneath it and clip the gradient map to that black layer. Set the black layer to screen mode. Now place your flame images or even draw it on a blank layer between the gradient map and the black layer. Still keeping them clipped to the black layer though. This way we can adjust the flame colors easily and we can erase parts of the flame and it would still look realistic. As you can see, with a few small adjustments, I made the flame smaller and it looks much nicer now. Let's also add some particles to the fire to make it look more realistic and some shadows for the torch itself. Now let's blend myself into the scene using the basic techniques like color balance and exposure adjustment layers. Can somebody please count how many times I said color balance and exposure adjustment layers, please? Finally, let's draw some nice lighting on myself. I know a lot of you guys ask me for a lighting tutorial, so consider this a mini one. So when drawing light, I really want you guys to start thinking about how light actually falls on 3D objects in real space. For example, in this scene, I'm holding the torch in front of me, so naturally, I'm not going to draw highlights on the edges of my body. That wouldn't make any sense. Light travels in straight lines, it hits the surfaces that face it directly, not the sides. I know some of you probably thinking, yeah, that's basic stuff, but honestly, you have no idea how many artworks, thumbnail, or whatever else I see where people just mess this up. They throw highlights around the edges of the characters just because it looks cool, but it just doesn't. It looks wrong. And if you want your art to feel more believable, you have to first match how light behaves in real life. That's the foundation. And after that, then you can push it creatively and add your own artistic flair. As you can see in the video, I start by matching the real world lighting I put highlights where the torchlight would naturally hit in front of my jacket, on my face, like nose, cheeks, lips, and even inside my eyeballs, because that's exactly what happens when light's shining directly at you. I use hue and saturation adjustment layer at first just as a rough placeholder to block in the idea of where the light should land. Then I come back with a brighter layer and much detailed highlights, refining the lighting especially around my face, my hair, and also the folds of my jacket. Honestly, it's hard to fully explain the process step by step because a lot of it comes from training your eyes to actually see how light works. But here's something you can do. If you have RGB lights, or honestly, even just a lamp, grab your hand and hold it up close to the light. Watch how light wraps around it, pay attention, notice how it hits the surfaces facing the light source, and how the sides fall into shadow. Study that. That's the kind of observation that will make your lighting more believable. You have to train your brain and your eyes to catch those little details. That's the real secret. Back to the piece, I'm trying to stay true to the lighting setup. I add highlights not just randomly, but where the torch would realistically cast them. Like on the right side of my jacket, my t-shirt, my arm, and so on. Then I draw some more light on the right side of my face, but this time I use exposure adjustment layer because there's no strong color light coming from that side. Now let's blend the gun into my hand by drawing some shadows on my arm and the gun itself. The light doesn't come from the left, it comes from right, so the left side of the gun will have shadows. But also the torch on the left will cast some orange light onto the gun. On top of that, I use color balance to match colors for the rest of the scene. Then, using a color fill layer set to linear dodge add mode, I add a subtle glow to the torch. Now comes the artistic part of drawing light on the character. As you can see, I adjust some very subtle rim lighting just to enhance the rim light that's already there. Now let's add some fog behind me to separate me from the background a little bit more. I also add some color balance adjustments on top of my character and my lighting adjustment layers just so it blends into the scene a bit better. One thing I love to do sometimes is add a thin white rim light on the blank layer, very subtle, very thin. I think it adds a nice fake sharpness to the image. I don't know why, but it just makes it feel more tasteful, you know. And finally, after running everything through Camera Raw filter, here is the final product.
Ah, yes. Very nice.
Alright, I'll give it to you. It is pretty nice. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, it really helps a ton. My goal is to hit 25,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And with your support, I know we can get there. Also, don't forget to leave a like and comment down below. And then I'll see you in the next one.